The heat is on, the time is right. It's VGC, the video game podcast, with me, Jordan Midler, Chris Scullion, and Ethan Lawrence. This week, crime on Nintendo's platforms, but first, how's it going, folks? Ethan Lawrence off the telly. It's been a long time coming. How are you?
It has been a long time coming. I have moved house since the last time we spoke.
Ah, I see. How is the new digs? I like your little bookshelf behind you. Pretend you can read.
Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's nice. I mean, it wasn't ideal. Obviously, we moved here because the previous house got sold out from underneath us. But you know, it's all good and it's safe. And I've been here a long time, and I feel like really this is a story of you neglecting me.
Look, you were on this podcast when we were down in the doldrums when we had 3 listeners. Now,
yeah,
we're in the heady heights.
Ben Starr days.
Yeah. Look, as I'll point out every time, Ben Starr knew who I was before I knew who he was. But the point being, now we're at the heady heights of 6 listeners, so it's hard to rotate the cast of guests. So I had to wait until you'd really been down in the trenches playing Metaphor ReFantazio, but we'll get to that in a bit. Chris Scullion, how are you?
I'm good. I'm still recovering from an illness, but I'm over the most of it now. Sod's law. You go on holiday to Disneyland with your whole extended family, and then on day one you just get absolutely leathered with a extreme flu-like symptoms. And that's
how is young Michael Mouse? Is he still good?
We Mick, he was all right. He was on form, fine fettle. It was interesting because you turn up at Disneyland in the morning, and him and Minnie are at the top, kind of waving at everyone as they come in, Queen style.
Yeah.
As in the late monarch, not Freddie Mercury.
No, We Will Rock You.
Not the late Freddie Mercury. But then if you instantly leave Disneyland and run over to the other park, Walt Disney Studios, they call it for now, Mickey's there waving everyone in. You're like, hold on a minute. I'm starting to believe Mickey Mouse isn't. There are 2 Michael Mice.
Once during because I'm deeply middle class, clearly, my uncle at Christmas used to like to do like parlor games. Like he would create this big quiz that we would all do after the dinner, and one of the questions was like it was like a grammar or an English question or something like that, and it was what is the plural of mice? And my aunt, who had a few sherries at that point, put mices, etc. And that's all I can think of when anyone talks about mice. It's not mice, it's mices, etc.
The etc. really makes it.
Yeah. She also.
I wasn't quite as upper class as you, so our parlour games were what's that smell? Is that gas?
As far as a trip to Disneyland goes, for the youth, for your young one, is she wanting to just meet the characters, or is it rides?
Do you know she's getting no interest in that at all, which is odd. Like she's always quite shy when she meets people at first, and then kind of comes out her shell a bit. So the whole concept of queuing up to meet Stitch, queuing up for 90 minutes to meet a random princess, she can think of nothing worse. She's not interested in the slightest. So there's rides for her. So she's like Big Thunder Mountain, big fan for 6 years old, which is pretty good going. She wanted to go on Space Mountain and like that. No chance.
Is she tall enough yet, or is that?
I don't know, but I didn't want to go through the terror of that of putting her through that, because I don't think she's appreciates quite what it entails. She loves Star Tours, though the kind of. And the fact that it's different every time you go on it now, she was just on it constantly. So to the extent that we bought a wee Star Tours ship.
Hell yeah!
On,
wow!
And it talks when you open the doors. It goes. Let's see if we can hear this.
Here we go.
Star Tours is proud to introduce the Star Speeder 1000.
Hell
So
yeah!
I'm quite happy with that.
Very
She's delighted with that.
That's very good.
So yeah, it was a good wee trip.
Well, should we do a video game podcast? If you want more podcast videos and more VGC, it's patreon.com/video games chronicle. This week, me and Chris put up a long ass video visiting the UK's largest retro game store, Forgotten Worlds, in Stewarton of all places. For those not painfully Scottish, Stewarton is like 20 minutes away from Glasgow, a real city. Chris, that place was paradise.
It was. For not like my wallet suffered for it, but I will be back, just maybe not soon, just and then to kind of build up some funds again. Because
it could have been much worse. I think
it could have.
Yeah,
it could have. There's a couple of things I had my eye on, but then I kind of reined myself in. Just got myself the Bandai Playdia, like really weird 90s console.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, in the wake of this, we've had a lot of people being like, "Oh, I need to go up there," so that place is going to be absolutely stripped for parts. But you can check that out on patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. Story number 1. Players are streaming Nintendo's Switch Online playtest despite requests not to. Several players streaming Nintendo's currently ongoing Nintendo Switch Online playtest, despite one of the conditions of joining said playtest being that players aren't allowed to share information about the game. But VGC can verify that players streamed the test on YouTube and Kick, and clips of the test were quickly shared on social media. The test was announced earlier this month, began this week, and will run it until November 6th. So screenshots of the game appeared this week, appearing to show a game that looks similar to Minecraft. Ethan, who could have predicted this?
No one. Like, I am shocked. I'm blown away that a request wasn't followed. Like, come on, if you're going to do that, you need to get the legal clampers on that, and even then, it's still going to get leaked.
Yeah, how are they going to stop anyone? How are they going to stop Johnny Sheffield, who's just sitting there like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign up for this thing"? They're like, "Oh, we'll take down your YouTube account." I said, "Okay, mate. I had about 2 subscribers. Who cares?" This was always going to happen, to the point where it's weird that they didn't, even if they were just going to keep it limited, Chris, like in terms of people who could actually play it. It's weird they didn't just put up a blog post being like, "Here's what it is. We're just testing it out. It's not a game."
Exactly that. See, if they were less secretive about it, people would be less keen to leak it. See, if they just said, "Look, we're making a pishy Minecraft and we're looking for 10,000 people to test, to kind of stress test it. Who's in?" And then people will be like, "All right, okay." You probably would get fewer people signing up for it, to be fair. But and then, when it came out, people would have went, "Here it is." They were right. It's pishy Minecraft, and that's it. But instead, everyone's going, "It's GameCube games. They're setting up streaming for this and that. It's a new Miiverse." So people almost felt obliged to share what it was, purely because everyone else on the outside wanted to know what it was. So yeah, a bit more transparency would have maybe kind of made this less leaky. Also, it's good to see that a good top tip for anyone looking to leak anything is to apparently do it on Kick.
Yeah,
because
no
nobody will trace you.
The guy who operates the DMCA takedowns for Kick just has like a broken laptop that's in his like cupboard, and he's just like, "No, I'll get to it at some point." Like Outlaws was streamed on Kick before it was out. Astro was streamed on Kick before it was out, and like the archive stayed up. YouTube, you can stream something before it's out, but pretty quickly, like, it'll get absolutely ripped to pieces. I also think YouTube's more inclined to give large companies information about those who are streaming. That's alleged. Sorry, YouTube.
Whoa,
here we go. Here we go.
Sort of stuff on a podcast.
Here comes the feds.
Do we want to really get into the things? I believe, because I've got some thoughts and theories. Here's the thing. I don't think this will actually become a game. I think this is more just like a testing environment for something they want to do for Switch 2. Interestingly, I believe I heard that the guy that is like behind this was the guy that made the Mii Maker and made like some of the original WarioWare games and made like Labo and stuff like that. So it's all very experimental weirdness. Chris, I would like to see Nintendo's attempt at something like this. I think their attempt at like a big multiplayer game would be interesting and profoundly Nintendo.
Yeah, it's not my kind of thing, to be honest. Like I've said in the past before, I'm not a very creative person. Like in terms of, if you give me like an empty room and like a load of blocks, Minecraft style, and say build something, I'll be like, ugh! I'll like, make like a Mario sprite, and that's it. So like I prefer games where I'm given tasks and I just carry the tasks out like a obedient servant. That's what pumps my nads, as the kids say. So it's not my kind of thing, but I would like to see how Nintendo does it, just from an outsider's perspective. Again, I also agree. I'm not convinced this is a full thing yet. This might be a Switch 2 project, but I wouldn't go as far. Some people going, well, this might be their next Miiverse. This might be them building a social media for the Switch 2. It's like, no. It is a Minecraft game. Like you can tell, if it's going to be something, it's going to be that.
Ethan, it feels like. Oh, no, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, by all means.
Ethan, it feels like Nintendo's attempt at a multiplayer game, you'd expect it to not an attempt at a multiplayer game. So obviously they've done stuff like Splatoon and Mario Kart, but their attempt at something like this, you would expect to have a bit of that Nintendo flair. Would that be enough for you to at least glance in its direction?
I'll have a look at it. I mean, I'm not a big multiplayer guy, but like Nintendo always have done stuff differently. And, you know, whatever this ends up being, I mean, looking through like the details of what's actually in it, it sounds pretty rote, to be honest with you. I mean, like beacons that expand and a social hub where you level up. Like it's a bit Destiny. It's a bit every Ubisoft map you've ever heard of. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's because Nintendo have got the source. Like, you know, they've always had the source. So it's worth a look. I mean, it may end up, whatever it ends up being, it'll be worth a look. And I'm sure it'll be covered extensively on Video Game Chronicle.
Absolutely not.
When I see the screenshots...
You're not going to cover it at all. Just
no. When I see the screenshots, I don't know if
Nintendo bias.
If I'm interpreting it wrong, but the screenshots make it look like a cross between Minecraft and No Man's Sky, where there's this enormous globe where you get your wee bit of land on it and plant your beacon and make your wee Minecraft world on it. But then it looks like it's attached to like a larger globe where other people can come and visit it. Which is, if that's right and I'm interpreting it right, that's a cool idea. If I'm interpreting it wrong, then it should be that. And if it isn't that, it's a failure.
I'm going to become a colonist. I'm going to annex the Nintendo Minecraft Falkland Islands and you can't get them back. Hands off our rock. I know that's Gibraltar. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're similar.
Yeah. Geopolitically, Gibraltar, the Falklands, and the Isle of Man, I think that's all kind of the same thing. See, up in Scotland, in a real country, we have islands named real things like Lewis and Arran.
Skye.
Yeah.
We might even have a couple of islands that people aren't actually named after as well.
Exactly.
All our islands are just like people's names.
Just
Shetland.
came down to the Isle of Skye. Anyway, before we get into a full-on sing-song, next story. Bloober Team claims it's finished making, quote, shitty games.
Finally.
And not before time. Speaking to GameSpot in the wake of its newly announced horror title, Chronos, The New Dawn. The team behind the recently released Silent Hill 2 remake said it's looking to shake its previous reputation and emulate the critical and commercial success of Silent Hill 2. Quote, we want to find our niche, and we think we found our niche, so now let's evolve with it, said co-director Jacek Ziba? We'll go for that. Quote, racist. And how that happens is more complex, but it also happens organically in the way with like layers of fear. People in the studio were like, okay, we've made some shitty games before, but we can evolve. Quote, we gathered a team that loves horror, says co-director Wojciech Pieszko. So I think for us, it would be easy. It would not be easy to switch to other genres, and we don't want to. Fair play to them, Chris Scullion. They made a great game, and if this can be a launching pad for them to be a new force, a proper force in survival horror, and not like it's Bloober Team, that'd be great.
I've had a soft spot for Bloober Team for a while, and I'm happy that they finally struck gold with this.
You famously like shit games, though, so is that the kiss of death?
That's part of it. I stand by the medium. I think they made a complete arse of the tone at the end of it. Of the medium, like they dealt with really kind of sensitive subjects in a bad way, but the game itself had some cool ideas and the atmosphere was great. I said in the past that when I played the medium, I thought, oh man, imagine if they got to make a Silent Hill game, because this looks just like a good Silent Hill, and then they did, and it was good. So I was right, is basically what I'm saying. But yeah, no, it's good that hopefully this is the kind of launching point, and from this point on, people show Bloober Team a bit more ruddy respect instead of just going, oh, is that the Blair Witch guys? Load of shite.
You could say, much like a medium, you saw this coming.
But why would you say that?
I wouldn't. Why the fuck would I say something like that? I can't believe you'd put those words in my mouth.
There's a guy in our YouTube comments who always says he listens to this on the night shift, so I know it's probably like 3 a.m. right now, and that joke maybe was a bit heavy for this time of the night, but a medium...
That guy who's listening to the night shift. Look out! There's somebody in the window standing outside, literally trying to break in.
A medium.
Do your job.
Who tells the future? Well, claims to, purports to,
a soothsayer.
Tell the future. A soothsayer, some kind of mystic, some kind of shaman. And I was joking with a bit of wordplay that in this case, Chris Scullion was the medium because he predicted that they would make a good Silent Hill game. Are we all on board with this?
I got it.
We understood what you were trying to do. It's just that it wasn't very good.
I don't think you quite did, because the kind of uproarious "Have I got news for you" style chuckles and laughter was not there.
Here's some wordplay which is arguably worse.
Okay.
There's a wee tease for people who aren't on Patreon. This is a joke that I've literally
15 minutes into the podcast. Here's some wordplay that's arguably worse.
This is a joke. This is a joke that I was writing just before this podcast started, because I started work on our weekly newsletter, which you can get on patreon.com/videogameschronicle. That it's actually a mistranslation or a misinterpretation. And when he said they finished making shitty games, what he actually meant was that because Silent Hill was set in a town, it seems clear that all the games should be set in town and not in cities. So
Jordan, that's a joke.
Where's the Connery link here? What's the reference?
The Connery link is that in the newsletter I say that he decided to put on a Sean Connery voice while saying it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Established. That is comedy.
That's called a beacon. You place that down and you build the joke around it, and then people come from all over to see it.
More time in the writer's room, perhaps. Ethan Lawrence, you played this new Silent Hill yet?
No, I've been too busy with Metaphor ReFantazio. I'll probably get around to it at some point. I mean, I am happy to eat crow in the fact that, like, I've hated all of Bloober Team's games up until now.
Me too, bro. I told them to their face that I was surprised that Silent Hill 2 was good, and they seemed to get what I was cooking with.
It's nice to actually read that. Like, it's rare for game developers to be as candid to say, we understand for the last 8 years, our company has produced dreadful game after dreadful game, but we've decided to be good now.
Obviously, they don't say this publicly ever, but the more you talk to game developers, they all know what's wrong with their games. They are much more critical of their own titles than us poxy critics ever are. So
it's the same with anything, isn't it? No one sets out to make a bad game.
Yeah.
It's just that Bloober Team have more than most.
Yeah. I would love for that. I don't want them to just become a Silent Hill studio. I think this Chronos thing, which was shown at the Xbox show last week, really cool concept, cool trailer at least. I would love for this to be. It's probably not going to be as good as Silent Hill 2 because it's not got the bones of Silent Hill 2 to like work off of. Because I'm sure that got that game a lot of points, but I'd like it to be not. I'd like the conversation not to be like, oh well, we're back to the medium core.
Well, that's going to be the next step. Like, you know, their one like unequivocally good game was a remake, and so they're still untested when it comes to like making good original concepts. But you know, this has garnered them, you know, some deserved, you know, if not goodwill, at least slightly better will.
Slightly better.
I mean, they did grammar. What very few studios are able to do, and that's turn around a toxic internet opinion. Like when the gameplay, the combat gameplay trailer came out, the amount of dislikes it got on YouTube would be enough to kill most things. Like
to the point where they were like, it was Konami that did this, not us.
Like, and that was like that at that point. That was your female Ghostbusters. That was your Prince of Persia. That was your moment. That was your Concord. The moment when everyone downvoted it, you're like, this game's dead. This game's going to do badly because the internet mob has decided this is one they're going to dislike, and they turned it around, which is like a monumental achievement, given the way the internet is. So fair play to them.
Fair play to Bloober. Next story. This broke last week, day after the podcast. Marvel Spider-Man 2 will receive no additional story content. Insomniac has confirmed in a post on the PlayStation blog that the game's coming to PC in January, and the developer has said that the game will get no story DLC, which is different from the original Marvel Spider-Man game. Quote, while we have no additional story content planned for Marvel Spider-Man 2, we're delighted to bring all our previous release post-launch content to the PC version, including New Game Plus, new suits, color variants, photo modes, etc., etc. While the first game received several shorter story expansions, the game's largest story expansion was eventually spun off into its own game, Spider-Man Miles Morales. It is possible that further spin-off titles are planned for Spider-Man 2. Now, as with every Insomniac story, this is a weird situation because obviously everything that happened means that people think they have a better idea of what the schedule for Spider-Man 2 was originally planned to be. However, independently of that, and before all that happened, story DLC similar to the first one, like short kind of 3 or 4 missions, side missions with other villains that weren't in the first game, were found in the files of Spider-Man 2, but now it seems like they're not doing that. Chris, do you think the success of Miles Morales made them think, we can get another box out of this, we can get another 40 quid game out of this?
Maybe. I mean, I'm happy because I've not actually played Spider-Man 1 yet. I've got the 3 of them sitting in my backlog, and the less I need to play through, the better. So I'm in that unique position where I'm like, no more DLC, please. Let me catch up, and then go buck wild. But no, maybe it's a weird one. You can never. This is one of the odd things about leaks, especially when a studio's entire workflow is leaked, and people assume that everything that's sitting there is 100% set in stone and definitely going to happen. So maybe that DLC was stuff that was planned and then it was abandoned quite a while ago for various reasons, in terms of, we should move resources to the next game instead and not spend time on this or what have you. But because it had all leaked, this is going to lead to people saying, oh, they've messed up. They've lied to us. That we were promised
Already
this, and
has.
and it's like, well, they never promised anything. Like,
especially because Blessing pointed this out. The problem is that document got hacked that showed like what they would like to do for the next 10 years, what they have like handshake agreements with to do for the next 10 years with the license holder. I know for a fact that has changed already. Like, because things like that change basically as soon as they're made. So especially in a case like this where you have the hack and you have the data that was already in the game, it's a bit annoying. Like, it's not a bit annoying, it's annoying that it will generate this discussion. But also, I tried to think about this from the perspective of people that aren't like massively online. Like, if I was a big Marvel Spider-Man 2 fan and I saw this kind of stuff previously and then heard that there was no DLC, I'd be pretty disappointed, because I really liked that game. And the DLC for the first game was good. There was 3, like, there was like a set of missions where it was called like The City Never Sleeps. It was like a 3-parter that was basically like a big side mission that you got over a certain amount of time. And any excuse to go back to that world would be cool. But Ethan, do you think they're perhaps thinking, we can put this with spoilers somewhat for Marvel Spider-Man 2, but it's not really, because it was pretty heavily advertised. You play as Venom at some point in that game, and the assumption is that the Miles Morales from 2 would be a Venom game. How do you think this all shakes out?
I mean, that would seem to be the direction of travel if you were going to make DLC.
Yeah.
I played Spider-Man 2 and enjoyed it immensely. It's a very, very good game. I wonder if parts of it, I mean, obviously they found some data, but that doesn't really mean anything. I wonder if parts of it are just because Spider-Man the game, both of them, were like hysterically expensive to make.
Yeah.
And like, putting them on PC now is obviously part of the process of reclaiming some of that the money they lose from exclusivity. And I wonder if maybe it's something to do with that. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. When Miles Morales was released, did it sell all right, or was it
so brilliantly? And I think it was largely to do with the fact that it was a de facto PS5 launch game. I mean, it came out on the 4 as well, but it was like everyone who got a PS5 got Miles Morales.
I sense, therefore, that perhaps somewhere deep within the arcane accountancy of Sony Interactive, some bean counter has put some spreadsheets together. And I mean, that's how often is that the case when something goes awry? It's like, okay, well, I saw a spreadsheet and it was not exactly what I wanted to see. I'd play a Venom DLC.
Oh yeah, me too. I think traditional DLC is kind of out of fashion at this point. You don't see a hell of a lot of it. Like, I thought it was quite novel that the Alan Wake stuff came out this week, because you think of like, we've kind of transitioned back into more of an expansion model. Like, if you're not, well, I suppose CD Projekt stuff is like huge expansions, but I feel like in the 360 generation and the PS4 generation, it was always, we'll do a couple of levels after it comes out. And nowadays it's like the post-launch release is usually, here's New Game Plus and photo mode and stuff like that. Stuff should just be in the game off the bat. I don't like you pitching that to me as post-game content, post-release content. So yeah, I'm
with you on that. I mean, I mean, if it does end up not happening, I mean, what you said really struck me. in that, like, if you aren't like, religiously following video game news, but you played Spider-Man 1 and all its DLCs, and then you got 2, and then there's no DLCs. It's not great. It's not an amazing look, and like, it's a shame. It is a shame if true, but we will see. I mean, you wrote in the runner that like there may be some plan here. Who knows? But we're not going to be told it until they're good and ready.
This is no breaking kayfabe, but I would be astounded if we get to Spider-Man 3 without an interstitial of some kind, be it a Venom game, or be it there are characters that are set up in the conclusion of Spider-Man 2 that would make sense for a spin-off. So
A launch title for the PS6.
Come on now, any day now. I mean,
Can I just
PS5's
point out,
in the post, so
we were talking about
PS5 post in the
DLC.
post. Uh-huh.
We were talking about the DLC being called City That Never Sleeps. Anyone planning on going to New York under those pretenses will be sorely disappointed. Nintendo World shop in New York closes at 8 o'clock. Madame Tussauds closes at 7 p.m. It's bullshit. The city very much, major parts of the swathes of that city do sleep, like any other city.
Nintendo New York is an absolute sham of a place, and it should be shut down and reverted to what it previously was.
Nintendo
the goddamn
World.
Pokemon Center.
No.
It should be Pokemon Center.
No, when they shut down the Pokemon Center and replaced it with Nintendo New York for the first time, and they had like the Gulf War Game Boy, and like they had the AES, the NES prototype, and all that. That should still be there. Instead, it's just basically a big show, a big, what do you call it? Shop.
Yeah.
That was the word I was searching for.
I did go to the previous one, the one that had the toasted Game Boy. That was cool. But for reasons that will become clear in about 30 years, I've been looking at a lot of footage of the Pokemon Center in New York, and
okay, so you've been looking at a lot of footage of war destroyed hardware for reasons that will become clear.
And it's really striking to me that despite like sure, we weren't in the HD era, we weren't in the smartphone era, but see, trying to get footage from like television broadcasts from like 2000 to 2005, everything's in like 240p, which is weird because it was recorded on digital, so you could at least, like, the clean signal of that wouldn't be terrible, but it's obviously been preserved on like VHSs and stuff like that, so trying to get anything raw,
it's weird. See, when you see that on TV, on clip shows sometimes, when they look back at like some past, and you can tell they've got the clip off the internet, and it's really bad quality, and it's like back in the day, researchers would have actually secured the rights to that footage, like actually put the effort in to get broadcast quality footage instead of just going on YouTube and ripping a video that was uploaded 16 years ago. And it's like that's just a little thing that has always bothered me, like in kind of modern times. I've noticed it.
Tell you what though, things have improved. There was a repeat of an old Great British Bake Off on the other day, like from like really early, like really early, and it kind of looked like it was filmed on a brick. Yeah, dreadful, like staring at it through a washing machine filter.
Yeah.
Do you know what was brilliant? When I worked for the BBC has an internal iPlayer that has the entire archive of everything they've ever broadcast that they need for like clip shows and legal reasons and stuff like that. And if you're a BBC, or if you have a BBC email address, you can get into it. And the first thing I did, Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe, all of it in like perfect quality and not the YouTube quality. And I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Straight up in the torrent sites,
Yeah. Especially
they requested you not to share it.
Exactly.
all that stuff was uploaded on YouTube's like about 10 generations back of YouTube's bitrate, so it's already like super crushed. Like,
people need to redo their bit and re-upload all those shows again that they uploaded 15, 20 years ago.
There's a guy that's been upscaling old like Scottish TV shows like Chewing the Fat and stuff like that. There's a Chewing the Fat upscaled version on YouTube that's pretty good.
Fair play to him.
Story number, whatever it is, I can't count. Baldur's Gate 3 exec says Ubisoft is to blame for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown selling poorly. In a post on X, Michael Dowse suggested that the game's relative failure wasn't down to the development team's work, but due to Ubisoft's management. Dowse said that Ubisoft should have released the game on Steam day one rather than 7 months later. Instead, the PC version launched on the Epic Games Store and the Ubisoft Store, which 2's says would have been underused by players at the time. Quote, the last notable game on their platform was arguably Far Cry 6 in 2021. The Crew, Mirage, and Avatar came in 2023 and didn't perform, so you can assume that the subscriptions were at a lull when Prince of Persia released in 2024, which means people wouldn't be launching their store all too much. If it had released on Steam, not only would it have been a marketing success, but there would likely have been a sequel because the team are so strong. This comes in the wake of the news that Ubisoft has ridiculously disbanded the team responsible for the game and moved them to other projects, including Rayman and a few other bits and pieces. Chris, first of all, Ubisoft, what are they playing at? Because this game was great.
It was, but this is another one that we were discussing earlier. This is another one that the internet decided they didn't like from the moment it was announced, for reasons you could probably guess at. There's a lot of kind of not very nice stuff being said, particularly about the lead character. So it seemed like this is one of those games where Bloober Team managed to turn it around. The team who worked on this Prince of Persia game didn't quite manage it, and despite the critical success, like Metacritic, it's like between 85 and 87, depending on what platform. That just didn't transfer into sales for whatever reason. People had already decided this game was dead on arrival, and it's a shame. Like you say, like Ubisoft should have given them. It's all well and good saying this, and we don't have the kind of the numbers to hand and the business sense. But in a just world, Ubisoft would have given them another crack at doing something, because they're clearly a talented team. And according to the reports that were doing the rounds, that the team loved working on it. Like there was a bit of crunch, but they were such a small team. They actually didn't mind doing it. It wasn't like a kind of corporate imposed crunch. They willingly did it, because they loved working on it so much. And the suggestion was that it was a place of kind of rest and recovery for people who'd been burnt out on Beyond Good and Evil 2. They all got put on Prince of Persia instead and had a great time. So yeah, it would have been great if they got another crack at the whip, but sadly not.
Yeah. Ethan, did you get a chance to play this?
I did. Played it to completion. I thought it was great. Yeah. Like really, really good. It's really smooth. Like really, it's one of those games. A lot like, funny enough, a lot like Spider-Man, which it just felt like good to move in that game.
Definitely.
And if you've got that, then like you're away. I actually saw a thing on X, formerly Twitter, earlier, which was these butt munchers who think they know exactly what they're talking about when it comes to why games fail.
Chris Scullion.
Yeah, that's it. Chris Scullion posted a graphic with a picture of the prince from this game with the caption, quote, "Avoid this. Is he Arab, Aztec, Native North American, North African? Who knows? Don't confuse your gamers for woke DEI points. I think he's Persian, personally."
They're closing the title.
It's right there. I'm genuinely gutted that this team has been broken up, because, like I said, it was just a viscerally fun game to play. And it's been a while since I've played a Ubisoft game and I've gone, that was really fun.
Yeah, it was kind of against the run of play for what they've been doing. So I hope that like they've said they're exploring a new Rayman project. Like if this team gets to go and do, or at least some of this team gets to go and do a new Rayman, that would be cool, because obviously Rayman Legends is like an all-timer, but that's like the last significant one they've done. I just hope it's not everyone gets scattered to the wind, and then in like 10 years time we're talking about like, oh, the original Prince of Persia Lost Crown team are back together and we're going to do another one.
If the end result of this is a new Rayman game made by this team, I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm all right.
The thing that this is me going on a platform here, so just everyone brace yourselves. Platform time.
Strap on.
This DEI pish. The thing that I hate, the subsection of these people that I hate most, are the ones who aren't bold enough to say what they actually mean, and make up a fake excuse that everyone kind of clings on to as if to say, no, this is actually a reasonable excuse. So when the woman Ghostbusters came out, The argument wasn't, but they're women. The argument they all used was, this isn't my Ghostbusters from my childhood. I don't remember this Ghostbusters. Yet when one comes out set in the desert, that was fine. That's so this one, the Prince of Persia, a lot of them, some of them were blatant and basically saying it's the protagonist, but some of them were saying, but they used rap music in the trailer. That's just tonally wrong. It's like, do you not remember The Warrior Within, one of the best Prince of Persia games ever, had Godsmack like in its soundtrack? I'm sure it was Warrior Within, maybe Sands of Time, but I think it was Warrior Within. Had like, so it's like, don't give us that. Like
it was Warrior Within, because that's when he got a Fall Out Boy fringe.
Right, that's when the warrior within him came out in the form of his fringe. But yeah, so it was like that's the kind of subgenre of hatred that I hate the most. Is like when they don't even have the gumption to come out and say exactly what they mean. They just hide behind, oh no, actually. So yeah, that's all. I'm coming down from a platform now. Those just listening to the audio and not watching on video. I'm physically climbing down from a platform right now.
I think it's unfair of you to go after the recently lobotomized. After the break, we'll have chat about Metaphor ReFantazio as well as questions from our Discord. Until then, we'll see you in a minute. And we are back. Ethan, you've been playing Metaphor ReFantazio, a game that we didn't do a review cast for, so let's do a review cast mini right now. How are you finding it?
I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. I mean, so for a bit of backstory from my own personal life, Persona 5 was a game that came to me at a time when I really needed it. I was doing pizza delivery. I hated my life. And Persona 5 came along and I just fell in love with it. It's been a long time since I fell in love with a game like that. So something of that nature being released by Atlas is a day one for me, as it was. And I am not disappointed. I adore this game. I love it.
How far into you are you so far?
So in an attempt to avoid spoilers, I will say that I have had a battle with the big bad.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And I have gone to a place and some revelations have happened.
Well, you've just ruined the game for most people listening there. But,
sorry. To the people at home, I apologise for saying that things happen in the game.
I can't believe there's revelations in it.
How do you feel about how Persona-y it is? Because like it is so Persona, like down to the like your day to day, the menus, like the position of your character on the screen when you're battling, like the idea that people were reacting to the review being like, why do you have to mention Persona? First of all, it's literally advertised as from the minds behind Persona 3, 4, and 5, but also the game is so Persona.
Not a problem for me. So a good friend of mine, shout out to Ollie, he said that he once told me that the key difference that he has between Coldplay and Mumford & Sons is that they both have one song, but he likes Coldplay's song.
Yeah.
And it's very much this for me. Like, yeah, it's very Persona coded, but do you know what? I really like Persona.
Me too.
The fact that it's got that aesthetic and everything like that. I mean, there are some elements that aren't the same. Like, none of the soundtrack is going to make it onto my D&D playlist. Let's put it that way.
You're not wanting to sit there listening to Gregorian chanting like Serge Tankian screaming at you over the music?
Not for me. Not for me. I'd much rather have some jazz funk. I found out a thing. I can't remember where I found this from. It might even have been this podcast. So if it is a repeat, ignore me. But it turns out all of that chanting is in Esperanto.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that.
Which is like a bizarre little detail, but I really like it. But yeah, I mean, if Persona is your bag and you've enjoyed a Persona game in the past, then I can't recommend this highly enough. And if it maybe isn't, I think there's enough of like a visual difference, and like if you like your high fantasy, it's got it all there for you. I am very impressed by how bold the story is in dealing with certain themes. Like it is quite a big thing for a game to come out, and within very, very early in the game, for them to go, look, there's a fascist trying to take over the kingdom. The only thing we can do is assassinate him.
Yeah.
That is the only possible course of action. Political violence.
I mentioned this in the review. I think it stumbles on that stuff somewhat in some of its allegories for like racism and things like that. I think it can be a bit basic in its worldview, but the fact that it's trying it is great.
It's heavy-handed in spots, but then racism's a heavy subject, man. It's
yeah. Let's get really down into it, okay?
Let's pontificate on racism. Us three white men.
See if we all actually learned Esperanto, which was designed as a language designed to bring the world together. Then maybe there would be no racism. Something to think about.
Well, there's levels to this. There's levels to this in a game called Metaphor ReFantazio. Bad name, by the way.
Yeah, terrible name. Absolutely terrible name.
Is it worse than Project Octopath Traveler, or is it kind of a dead heat?
I mean, it's
Octopath Traveler. At least I sort of get it. What you're going for, like 8 things. I understand that. Metaphor ReFantazio is nothing.
Yeah,
That's
same with Triangle Strategy. Like that's an awful title, but it kind of does what it says on the tin. In the same,
it's basic, but you sort of know what you're getting in for.
Yeah.
Metaphor, okay, for what? ReFantazio, not a word, no idea. What's going on?
like, would it be better if it was just called Metaphor? Because that's all anyone's calling it. No one's saying, "Oh, what are you playing this weekend?" Oh, I'm playing about the old Metaphor ReFantazio.
See, I have been doing that because
you're a fucking nerd.
So,
like Persona 5, great. Metaphor ReFantazio sounds like the bonus version they'll do in a year. Like the original game was Metaphor, now they're adding another character and it's Metaphor ReFantazio.
It sounds like the 7th album from a power metal band and it's not going well.
Like Dragon Force. But Dragon Force is always going well.
God love them.
The thing about Dragon Force is that I don't know if you've ever either seen them live or seen performances of them from the mid-2000s, but both guitarists used to get blackout drunk before they would play, and they would just like waddle around the stage, falling over, like doing jiggly wilkies and still playing the guitar perfectly. It's like, Herman Lee, man, come on, shout out Herman Lee, get him on the podcast.
And Sam Topman, let's not. The chief songwriter of Dragon Force, no less.
That was more of a Herman Lee, man.
Oh wow! But you didn't enjoy the powerful lyrics that Sam Topman came up with,
mate. Like, see, if I'm on a long drive and it's getting to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna fall asleep in Princess Diana myself here. Like, I get a bit of Dragon Force on, and it really gets me going. I think a video game entirely scored by Dragon Force would be something else.
That would have vastly improved Metaphor ReFantazio.
It would have.
I mean, it might have made you press buttons a bit quicker, but
I've never liked Dragon Force because of the way they like that Guitar Hero 3 Fire and Flames. That playing that an expert just like destroys any sense of credibility anyone has as a video game player. So I could beat it on hard. But expert, that intro bit just killed me instantly, and I've always been angry with them for that.
I could probably, if you gave me like a bit of paper now, I could probably write you the first like minute and a half of that note track for it on expert, because I've seen it so many times. It's just it's very difficult. But yeah, in conclusion, Metaphor ReFantazio, Dragon Force is great. So
Metaphor's a great game. If you just go get it, it's worth your time. And God, it's a long game.
I mean, they're always like that. That's why they give us those like a month and a half before the embargo, because it's like, if there's any chance of you actually completing this, but famously games journalists don't bother completing games. Ethan, we have some questions for you from the from the Discord. You can get access to our Discord at patreon.com/video games chronicle. First question, is this going to do this weird thing when it doesn't tell me people's names? Oh no, it's actually playing the game. Okay, let's go for. Is this simply not working? Oh no, it is working.
This is my favorite bit of the podcast that now, like since the Patreon's gone up, my favorite bit is Discord admin.
Hello and welcome to Discord is shite. Elliot Hoy asks, don't suppose we could get the journalistic scoop of like, what's it like being on the telly? Because he's on the telly. What is it like being on the telly?
I've always found it very strange. So I think a lot of people forget is that when we shoot it and when it comes out are vastly different times. So you got on the one hand, filming stuff is a lot of fun. Like, it's it's my day job. It's what I love to do.
Mm.
And you're not really thinking about the end result because you just focus on what's in front of you. When it comes out, I mean, I've always said I watch everything I'm in once and then never watch it again because I find it unbearable. Like I'm just looking at myself moving around. I'm like, okay, why did you lift your hand that way? Why did you say it like that? Why are you what is wrong with you? It's for people who maybe don't know what this is like. Just record your voice and then listen to it back. And
You never catch me recording my voice.
Well, it's not for you, for the people on the Discord. But if you do that and you cringe your entire skeleton out your arsehole, then you know what I'm talking about. But I mean, being on telly is cool. Of course it's cool. And I've learned over the course of it to sort of, be better about accepting it. Like initially it was very sort of like imposter syndrome and everything like that. And then no one teaches you about like how it's going to change your life when people start recognizing you on the street. Like there's no like school, like you're just thrown out there and see what happens. And you develop strategies. I mean, my thing now is like, if I get recognized on the street and like someone wants to talk or whatever, my thing is always leave them with a good anecdote.
Yeah.
Like, for the next week, this might be what gets them a pint down the pub. So just make sure they've got a good anecdote. That's the way it operates. But yeah, being on telly is cool. I recommend it.
What was it like so obviously when you did the Bad Education stuff, and that is like a show aimed at like younger people, and you were also a young person, was that like the height of people coming up to you and being like, oh, you're the wee guy from Bad Education? Like
it was the low point actually.
Oh really?
Because I think a lot of people forget, like Bad Education has sort of got kind of an outsized influence on sort of pop culture based on what it actually was.
Yeah.
Which was a brand new sitcom on a digital only channel in 2012. So it didn't have like, it did good numbers for BBC Three. Like I think it was like 1 million people watched it, which is like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But like in terms of the population of the UK, it's not that much. So yeah, like I didn't get recognized really at all from Bad Education for the longest time. That all changed really for me with Afterlife.
Yeah.
And again, all you need to look there is just the terms of scale. Like, 1 million people watched the first episode of Bad Education, and then something ridiculous like 180 million people watched the first episode of Afterlife. It's just there's no comparison.
I always get like Gervais bloopers on my TikTok because those are like unbelievably funny. Like if you're ever in a bad mood, watch the extras bloopers and you'll be like in tears laughing. And the Afterlife bloopers as well, that just looks like the most fun in the world to work in that environment.
I still get told regularly that the Afterlife bloopers are the best thing I've ever done. Me being bad at my job is the best thing I've ever done.
What is the actual vibe when that stuff is going on? Is there a sense of like, because I wonder, are like the cameramen and the sparks and stuff like that, are they like, fucking get on with it, man? Like we need to go and do the next setup, or like why are these actors not just doing their job? Why are they all laughing?
Well, I mean, for a Gervais set, it's a bit different in that's priced in.
Yeah,
and a lot of his crew are people who have worked with him before, so they know what to expect. I always say, people say, "Oh, I wish there were more bloopers. There should be bloopers for everything." Thing is, most bloopers / outtakes are really boring.
Yeah,
because it will generally be someone flubbing a line and going, "Oh shit," and then just rolling back in the dialogue a little bit. That's not fun. That's not going to get clicks on TikTok.
So you say,
yeah. I mean, it's for the most part, like, especially for something that isn't like a Gervais project. Like if you fuck up, you just quickly rewind and keep going. And there's not much commented on it because like I said, the people want to go on to the next thing and they don't want to go home late.
Yeah,
I remember one of the tightest crunches we had one time. It was the second series of Bad Education, and the last thing we shot, like the last thing in the whole of the shoot, was the jump off the diving board in the swimming pool episode.
Yeah.
So we had one go at this because Jack Whitehall was wearing a wig that was, that basically looked like my real hair. By the way, that was my real hair. People who always ask that question. And Whitehall got a wig. So when we jumped in, like obviously the wig would be ruined, my hair would be ruined. We had 15 minutes left to shoot. So we only had one go at this. And it's specifically one of the reasons we had the one go is because Ali, who was the cameraman on camera B, his wife was literally in labor while this was happening. So it was like, okay, we have to get this in one because Ali needs to go to the birth of his son. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, when that is happening and you're up against it, suddenly nothing's as funny anymore.
Yeah, you lock in.
You're saying that like you didn't get recognised a lot during bad education, but then you do for Afterlife. What's the situation in terms of Horrible Histories? You get kids coming over saying it's Napoleon, or does that not kind of?
I think because the costuming and wig work and everything like that is on Horrible Histories is so extreme.
It's not recognisable.
I'm not fully recognisable for it, which is fine. But like it's such a thing to be involved in Horrible Histories. Like I still pinch myself regularly because like Jordan for this will be especially, but like I'm of an age where like the books were like a foundational part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I was so surprised about because like I remember the Horrible Histories books and like the magazines and stuff like that, but then when it was only recently that I think it was maybe the generation after me that got really into the TV show that had like that insane cast that went on to do like Ghosts and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, what a knockout cast to start, and now there's us.
But that's the thing. Like, I couldn't believe that when I would see TikToks like all the parody songs, people were like, "Oh, this is my childhood. It was so big." I was like, I don't remember this at all, but it was the thing after my kind of era, and yeah,
you just missed it maybe by just one year.
That's a proper institution.
Because obviously I'm too old for Horrible Histories, like for the books to have been in school. I'm trying to remember what, because I think were you guys ever exposed to point horror books? That was back in the day in my era. There was like a bunch of kind of young teenage horror stories called point horror, and libraries were full of them. And it was like your R.L. Stein, who ended up doing Goosebumps and stuff like that. This was their kind of first forays into. So that was our Horrible Histories, but it was a bit darker.
Things are very different in the 1950s.
They were very well. They had to get home right after school, close the curtains in case it was bombing, like a full blackout, just in case. But we made it.
Yeah, we made it. Have you got anything coming down the teller that you can talk about now, Ethan, or is it all wraps?
We've just finished shooting a spin-off of Horrible Histories called Horrible Science.
Oh, nice.
Also based on the books. It's functionally the same, but science this time. I mean, literally same creative, same cast, like just throwing it out, same as everything. I did a thing for Apple TV, and it's important that I get this out there because it's Apple TV, so therefore they have not promoted it at all. It's a show called Disclosure, and when I tell you who's in it, you will be shocked that they have not advertised this. So it's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, starring...
Prisoner of Azkaban, come on!
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? It stars Kevin Kline, Sacha Baron Cohen, and me for like 2 scenes.
The big three.
The big three, precisely.
That makes more sense because Svea Adugar in the Discord says, "Can you ask him if Kevin Kline could sign my copy of Wild Wild West?" And I was like, "What is that in reference to?"
Yeah, so I did. So it was a weird thing. This is back in 2022. We shot this around the same time that I was doing Magic Mike's Last Dance. So you can imagine I was feeling pretty good about where my career was going. So yeah, it was two scenes with Kevin Kline, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, and that again, that's very much a pinch me moment where you just sort of you're there like, fucking hell, like what? Why me though? To do a scene opposite Kevin Kline. But yeah, it was an extraordinary thing to do, and people should go check it out. It's on Apple TV if you can be bothered to go.
That's how I feel getting to podcast with Chris Scullion.
I used to, and this is true, and it's the worst mistake you can make. I used to get Kevin Kline mixed up with Chris Klein from American Pie, the guy who played the most boring character in American Pie, Oz. So for the longest time, whenever people spoke about how great Kevin Kline was as an actor, I'm like, really? He was like the least exciting thing about American Pie, and then I realised that actually no, that was a different man.
You know, I've just realised something.
Go on.
It's not called Disclosure.
That'll be why it's not getting promoted.
Incredible promotion.
This is how well advertised it is. It's not even called that. To explain myself, I didn't know what this show was called until like really recently. It was under a code name. It was under a moody name the whole time. So it's not called that. It's not called Disclosure. It's called Disclaimer.
No.
Okay. So it's another diss. It's, you know, I didn't get that wrong. I got everything else wrong. Keep this in definitely, because
I mean, I told you I'm not editing fuck all this week, so it's all staying in.
So my apologies to everyone involved in Disclaimer, not Disclosure, which is a band. I think that's where I made the mistake.
Disclosure is a band.
Yeah.
If I was still in charge of naming these podcasts, with apologies to Kevin Klein would be the title this week. But
I mean Chris Klein.
Not. Chris Klein.
With apologies to Chris Klein. But
Chris Klein,
the
the star of Disclosure.
What, has Chris Klein been in anything? I'm going to have to, recently. Or is he just given up?
Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the point of the evening where we're just searching people on IMDb and checking if they're still alive. We hope you've enjoyed. We're going to do a spin-off podcast where this is all we do.
He had a main role on the CBS sitcom Welcome to the Captain. Does that count as a main role?
Welcome to the Cat. That you've just entirely made that up. I'm afraid.
It's true. People can Google that
This
in their own
fall
free
on
time.
CBS.
This isn't important for a podcast, but you can look that up yourselves.
Welcome to the Captain isn't important to a video game podcast. You wash your mouth out with fucking soap.
Well,
You dirty, dirty boy. Ethan, speaking of dirty boys, thank you very much for coming back. The official VGC historians will have to check if you are still neck and neck with one Chris Dring.
I think he's been on twice since I've been on, so I think he's one ahead of me now.
Right, we'll have to sort that out, or kill him with a shovel, whichever works out better. We'll find out. I think he's at EGX this weekend, so if anyone is shovel equipped and wants to, fire in.
Do it for me. Do it for Disclosure/Disclaimer.
Yeah.
I have to say, if Chris Klein's listening, like he often is, I'd like to have him on as a guest to discuss the making of American Pie and its sequels.
How much? How much do you think we'd get out of that? Like 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
We would get him to do that bit where he goes "Stooby Dooby Doo Bop," and then because that was his his famous bit in American Pie. We'd ask him about American Reunion, which a lot.
I want to hear about Welcome to the Captain.
The other 52 minutes. What are you thinking?
Ask what he thinks. What his high score is on Dodon Pachi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Do you think he's a Dodon Patchist, or what are we thinking?
I think so. He also starred in the remake of Rollerball, which is one of the worst. It is the most 2000 movie you will ever see, even though I think it came out a couple of years later. It was like a remake of Rollerball. I want to say Paul Heyman was in it.
Wow.
And it had like a proper new metal soundtrack. Like I'm sure Korn or someone of that ilk were performed the music, but actually were in the movie. I'm going to have to look that up later. That's another one the kids can Google on their downtime. Look up the remake of Rollerball and see how 2002 that movie was.
You actually just highlighted something important to me, Chris.
Go on.
Ethan, what wrestling you've been watching recently? How you finding the graps at the moment?
I've been following me AEW like I always do. In terms of pay-per-views, they've had a real string. I was there for All In. All Out, devastating. Wrestle Dream, devastating. It's been a lot of emotional gut punches in the world of AEW graps recently.
I'm in a kind of a quiet period at the moment. I watched Hell in a Cell. I keep up with all the Punk stuff, but I never watch it around Saudi time because one, fuck them for doing that, and two, it completely destroys all storytelling momentum because they're just well, we can't do any real matches over there, so let's just do. Oh, it's a champion versus champion. Who's gonna win the champion?
The blood money belt.
Yeah. I anytime Gunther stuff pops up, I watch that because he is just unbelievable. He is the man. I wish he would wear knee pads though, because I feel terrible for his wee knees.
Once again, I can't remember who said this, but the best description of Gunther I ever heard is that he doesn't have a finishing move because any move he uses is a finisher.
Yeah, it just the way leathers folk. That's what I like. see when I hear old wrestling like heads talk about like Stan Hansen and all these people, where it was like, oh, it looked like he was actually leathering people. That's what Gunther's entire style is. Like, wrestling him must be a genuine nightmare. Like, I'm sure he's perfectly safe, but he gets that shit in as tight as possible.
Speaking as someone who has been chopped by a 6'6" Canadian cowboy, like, those chops really hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, as if people Google a picture of Sheamus after he had a match with Gunther, like, his chest is like purple and bleeding.
Yeah, you can't.
Like,
you
yeah,
can't, yeah.
how
There's no,
fake
there's
is
no,
that?
yeah. There's no safe way of doing that. It's not. It's like you hear the noise. It's like there's no way that can be done in a safe and painless way. It's just.
I wouldn't wish a Gunther chop on my worst enemy. Maybe I'd wish it on Jordan.
I would take it.
Yeah.
Genuinely, straight away, no question. Like,
It would be an honour, sir.
yeah. The thing
Step on me, daddy.
the best part about those Gunther Sheamus matches is, you know, for a fact, backstage Sheamus was like, fucking leather me, let's do this. We'll just absolutely batter each other and get on with it. But yeah, all is good in the world of professional wrestling, and all is good in the world of VGC. Certainly not good in the world of games media, though. So if you'd like to support VGC, check out patreon.com/video games chronicle for more podcasts, videos, and extra content. It is Friday. I can say that on Monday we'll have a Dragon Age The Veilguard review. On some other day, I think it's 2 days after that, we probably won't have a full review for Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, but I will write something about it because I think it's kind of interesting. Things are going on.
I'd also point out there's a Sonic X Shadow Generations review up on the site just now. So for all those,
is it called? Is it not called Cross? Are we calling it?
I can never bloody tell with these things. Nobody ever, when they announce these games, someone should come out and say the name of the title.
Sonic Cross Generations ReFantazio.
Sonic's Shadows Generations. Well, thank you for listening to Chris, Jordan, Ethan Generations VGC the Video Game Podcast. Ethan, where can we find you?
At Ethan D. Lawrence everywhere. If you want to check out my Substack, Ethan Lawrence Large Actor, that's on Substack. I recently wrote an article about the intersection between Jacob Rees-Mogg, the UK television industry, and the Hop Tour Girl. So if that's something you sound interested in, go have a look.
Harrowing stuff.
The Dream Team.
Fine. Chris.
Very much like this podcast.
1888. Find me at Jordan Midler everywhere you get your good information. Just go down the library and be like, give me your best book on Jordan Midler. Brian Kirkhope, thank you very much for the VGC podcast theme. We apologise for the constant degradation to your legacy. Until next time, say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
Say goodbye, Ethan.
For 8 minutes, I was better at Jordan than Astrobot.
Never.
For 8 minutes.
If you're listening to this on Friday, I'm going to be on Giant Bomb today playing Astrobot, but you're probably not. Goodbye. See you next time.